So let's review. In the previous daf, the Gemara compares our Mishnah with a Mishnah in Sanhedrin, which discusses the issue of two witnesses who contradict each other's testimony about the timing of the event that they witnessed. Remeir would accept a discrepancy of 1 hour as a mistake by one of them, but would not accept a discrepancy of 2 hours. He considers that a contradiction, and Edus and Betel, their testimony is not valid. Rabbi Yehuda would accept a discrepancy of even 2 hours, and Edus and Kayemes, their testimony is valid. Abaye and Rava disagree as to what the reasoning of each side of the machlekes is. Abaye says that Remeir holds, Ein Odem Toyev Alei Klum, people do not err in the time of day at all. However, a 1 hour discrepancy can be explained by an event that occurred on the hour, which is essentially the very end of the previous hour and the very beginning of the next hour. And they are each referring to the same time, one way or the other respectively. Rabbi Yehuda holds, Adam Toyev B'chatzi Shah, people can err up to a half hour, and a discrepancy in testimony of 2 hours can be explained by an event that happened in the middle of an hour where each witness made a mistake of slightly more than a half hour in one direction. An alternative version of Abaye says that according to Remeir, people will make very minor mistakes, while according to Rabbi Yehuda, people will make mistakes of an hour and a little bit. Rav rejects this pshat, because it would mean that we would convict somebody, according to Rabbi Yehuda, when there is a 2 hour discrepancy, even though it may actually be a difference of almost 3 hours. One witness may have been referring to the beginning of the 3rd hour, and the other to the end of the 5th hour, a difference of almost 3 hours. Certainly a contradiction. How can we execute somebody based on testimony that might be contradictory? After all, the rule is, we must do whatever we can to try to justify saving the person and not killing him. Instead, Rava suggests a different understanding of the machlekes. The Divrei Meir, Adam Taya shtei shoyis chaser mashahu. The Divrei Yehuda, Adam Taya shalish shoyis chaser mashahu. Remeir holds people can be off by just under 2 hours, and once the discrepancy between the witnesses is 2 full hours, we can no longer accept the testimony. Yehuda holds people can be mistaken up to slightly under 3 hours, and we can still accept a discrepancy of 2 hours. Considering that people make such significant mistakes in the time of day, the Gemara questions how to understand the Mishnah in Sanhedrin about the Sheva Chakiris, the 7 critical questions that we ask Eidim in order to determine the time and place of the event they are testifying about. The Mishnah says, Chakiros, Amar Echad Mehen Eni Yedeya Edusim Betela. If one of the witnesses cannot answer even one Chakira question, such as to the hour of the day, the testimony is rejected because it is Edus Shi'at Yachal Azima, testimony that can never make them Edim Zaymin. The other Edim cannot claim Iman Ho Yisem, you with us elsewhere at that time, because they can always say, we erred, it must have been 2 or 3 hours earlier or later. The Gemara answers that when accepting their answers about the hour, we allow for a window of 4 hours according to Remeir, since the mistake could have been made 2 hours in either direction, and 6 hours according to Rabbi Yehuda, since the mistake could have been made by 3 hours in either direction. In other words, as Rashi explains, the Mezimin will have to say that you were with us elsewhere for that entire 4 or 6 hour period. We do not, however, allow for an error that would put the event back to before sunrise or after Chatzais Hayom, since Ben Yamama Lelele Leitoyinshi, people would not confuse days with nights, and Behei Chama B'Mizrach U'Bezayin Chama B'Mayrav. The sun is in the eastern part of the sky in the 5th hour, and the western part in the 7th hour. The Gemara now explains the opinions of Remeir and Rabbi Yehuda in our Mishnah about when we have to stop eating chametz, in light of their opinions regarding Edus about how much of a mistake people are likely to make in judging the hour of the day. According to Abaye, regarding Edus, Remeir holds that either there is no mistake at all, or a minimum mistake of the time, whereas regarding chametz, we must stop eating a full hour before chatzais. Similarly, regarding Edus, Rabbi Yehuda holds that the mistake can be either by a half hour or a full hour, whereas regarding chametz, we must stop 2 hours earlier. The reason for the difference is, Edus Mesura Lizrizim, chametz lachol masar. People who are coming to testify are more precise in noting the time of occurrence, since they know that they will be questioned about the timing. Therefore, we only allow for a smaller error. However, Isra Chametz is relevant to everybody, and we're concerned that people in general might misjudge the time in greater amounts. Rava explains that Remeir, who allows for 2 hour mistakes by Edus, still only requires stopping to eat chametz 1 hour earlier, because nobody would confuse the 5th hour when the sun is to the east with the 7th hour of the day when the sun is to the west. However, Remeir does not allow eating chametz in the 6th hour because the end of the 6th hour and the beginning of the 7th hour can be confused because the sun is too close to the top of its arc. Similarly, Rabbi Yehuda, who allows for almost a 3-hour mistake by Edus, would only require stopping to eat chametz 2 hours early on Erev Pesach, because people certainly won't confuse the 4th hour with the 7th hour because of the location of the sun. The Gemara asks that according to this logic, Rabbi Yehuda should allow eating chametz even in the 5th hour, which is also never confused with the 7th hour. The Gemara offers 3 answers. First, chametz lachol masa. We expect bigger mistakes with chametz than with edus, since the laws of chametz are for everybody, unlike edus, which people prepare for. Second, indeed the Isser D'Rabbanan to eat chametz in the 5th hour is not because of a concern for misjudging the time, but rather because Rabbi Yehuda wants people to have an extra hour to gather wood, since he holds in bir chametz el sreifa, the only acceptable way to destroy chametz is through burning it. Finally, gzerim mishum yom hama'oin. We're concerned for bigger mistakes on cloudy days when the sun cannot be seen. However, a possible cloudy day is not enough reason to forbid chametz in the 4th hour, because zman sud l'chol hi. The 4th hour is the time that everybody eats their meals, so everybody knows when it is.